Welcome back to the part 2 of our React tutorial series in a more than way. So today we are just gonna discuss a few things. There are not gonna be much changes. We are gonna discuss the folder structure and all the files which come, and we're gonna try to make our own component today. So let's just get started right away. I'm gonna explain all the files and all the folder the npx create react app made for us. So let's start with the ones which are concerned to us. The first thing is package.json. This is gonna host all the packages and the dependencies your react app is gonna have. So if you check it out here, these are the dependencies which we are gonna have for a react app, and these are the scripts which basically we run to run our react app or to run our or build or test it out. So if you can see, if you remember that we typed out in the last video npm start, so it is linked here and it basically tells to react script start. So that is what in very few cases you have to change these build commands and the scripts. We'll come to that, or I'll make another video where you'll have to do this, but you generally don't have to worry about these things. These are just for your dependencies and not your packages and stuff. Then you have a git ignore. So if you make a git repository, it tells what things to ignore. uh, then we can go into our folders. Now there is also readme and a yarn.log. You don't have to worry about it. It says that it is an auto-generated file, and there is a readme.md, which is some basic instructions and readme for your git repository if you make one. So there is some folder called as node modules. So it basically has a lot of folders, and you don't have to worry about it. It's just the dependencies and the packages which you have installed. So we never touch the node modules folders by ourselves. Then there is public folder. So there are some really interesting things here. So first is our favicon. The favicon is basically this icon which comes up. Then there is index.html. So how React works is it basically serves this index.html to the user or the client. So when you are seeing this page, it's basically index.html. So technically we are just using one index.html file or just one HTML file. So it is just one paged app, uh, the whole. So generally we don't edit anything here because React handles this. We don't need to write any HTML. Generally we just change the meta and the header and that stuff for beginner purposes, but you never mess with the body tag. You just leave it there. uh, it says that it, and if you read the comment, it will say that if you open it directly in the browser, you'll see an empty page because React is supposed to handle this. So how does React know that like I need to use this specific div? It uses this div. So it basically comes down to our index.js, which is in our src folder. So this is our source folder, and this is where all the magic happens, and where we react where we react all our code, where we write all of our React code. So you don't have to worry about these two folders much. Public a little bit. Manifest.json is something we don't have to worry about right now. And even with robots.txt, these are basically just some images for your website, which is this one, which is it is currently using. But apart from that, you don't have to worry about the public folder. Now in the src folder, the index.html, the thing which I showed you just before, and I said that React handles it all. So this is the file which handles it all. So if you see, it gets the document.getElement by id root. So this is where you specify what element of your HTML is being handled by React, and you give it the root component or the parent component, but parent wouldn't be a good term here, so we just call it a root component. So this is our main component, which is gonna host all the different components inside. So this is our app, and you can ignore all the rest for now. Then we have our logo svg. You can ignore this as well, you don't have to worry. And these are some files, yeah, nothing you have to worry about down here. And there's some css index.css, so you can basically specify your fonts and some general css. There is a test.js which is written to test things out. For React, again, we don't have to worry about this. Then there is our main root component which we messed with last time, and then it's the css of that specific component. So this is the folder structure we have. So I'll show you the folder structure which I use. So generally what I do is to make a new component, before I even start a project, I first check that am I using JS, like JavaScript or TypeScript. In this series we are just gonna use plain basic JavaScript, but if you are gonna use TypeScript, then there is some other things you have to set up, but don't worry about it. So first thing I do, which I like to do, is rename this file and rename it to .jsx. So what this does is two things. First, it gives you a beautiful React icon in your Visual Studio Code editor if you're using some icons theme pack. And second is it lets me distinguish between the normal JavaScript file and a React JavaScript file. So that is why I changed its extension to .jsx. You don't have to do anything else. It does not function in any different way. It is just for convenience sake and for me to distinguish between JavaScript and React JavaScript. So in our src folder, we'll make a new folder named components. So this is where all of our components are gonna go. So let's make a new component. So I'll go new, and okay. So this is our first component. So let's name it first component .jsx and enter. So generally in React, there are two types of components: class components and function components. People used to use class components a lot because they were stateful, and the function components are stateless. We'll come to what does stateful and stateless mean in the future video. But for now, you just have to understand that you could not use states in a function component. You could only use them in a class component. So people always used class components. So if you go back and look at old React code, they are basically using class components. But then React decided to introduce hooks. And what you need to know is hooks lets you use states in a functional component. So there is no difference in how those work. It's just how they are written is a bit different. In this course, we are gonna primarily focus on functional components right off the bat. Some people say it is a bad idea, but I'll make you understand class components in way down the line. Once you know a few things in general sense of React. So for this video and a few videos down the line, we're going to use functional components, then we're going to switch to class components, understand how React really works and its lifecycle methods, and then switch back to functional, just because people just say that it's a bad idea to start learning with functional components. But I feel that as an absolute beginner, when you don't have to even worry about the lifecycle statements right off, this is a very good entry point to learn. So yeah, I'm gonna use class components. So let's import React. I think it's React from React. So we're gonna import React, and we're gonna write a function which is gonna be class component, and let's just make it as a function. Yeah. So I wrote a function right now, and this basically means that it's a functional component, and we're gonna export this function, export default first component. So it makes sure that other components can use this component. So I'm gonna write return, and I'm gonna give 2 round brackets, open them, make a div tag, uh, and voila, we have written our first component. So this is the basic skeleton of a functional component. uh, right now we are not using any state, so this is a stateless component. Again, I'll come to states once we come there. It sounded weird, but okay. So I'll just give a h1 tag here, and it is gonna say this is our first component. So if I save this, and I have my React app running in the background, and nothing is coming up. I perfectly wrote it, nothing is coming up. That is because we'll have to import this component in our app component. So what I'm gonna do is below this p tag, or yeah, below this p tag, I'm just gonna write first component and press enter. Now Visual Studio Code auto imports it for me, but yeah, so we have imported our first component, and if I save it, it should have worked. Oh, I'm so sorry, I freaked out. I shut down the React server. I thought it was running all along, and I'm like, did I do something wrong? But yeah, so now our server is up and running, and as you can see, it says this is a first component. So if I change anything inside here, if I say that I am happy to see it, and if I save, then it gets reloaded again, and it just says that it's I'm happy to see it. And if I change the heading size, it's automatically changes, and that all cool stuff. So yeah, we just wrote our first React component. That's super cool, and it's super clean. It's functional. You can import multiple components, the same ones. So if I want, I can just duplicate this line, and as you can see, it imported this. So it's super cool that I just imported a component inside another component, and I can reuse this component. So React helps you curb a lot of redundant code, and you can just reuse the same code again and again. You can use the same components again and again at different places and the different time. So that is something very cool I find in React, that I don't have to write code again and again. So yeah, this is all we have for this tutorial. Thank you for watching. Make sure to subscribe, comment down below, put any suggestions if you have. If there are any doubts or any things you don't feel that are clear, I'll make sure to clear them out. Thank you for watching. Bye bye.